Look at the fruit. Truth leads to clarity and peace and empowerment, where illusion leads to exhaustion, confusion, resentment, contraction, feeling drained. Over time, the results never lie. I want you to become aware of the words that you use in your daily lives, the quality of life that they create for you, and the impact that they make on others, either uplifting their moods into peace and joy or leaving them depressed and depleted. I'm going to tell you this all again. Truth leads to clarity, peace, and empowerment. So if your words are creating clarity, peace, and empowerment, or creativity, joy, laughter, happiness, they are words of truth. But if they lead to exhaustion or confusion or resentment or drain or feeling contracted, then they are illusion. And so the results of this over time is you will feel completely drained and depleted if you are living in illusion. Whereas if you are living in truth, you will have all kinds of energy because you will be living in life-giving consciousness. Life-giving consciousness. So think about the words that you use. So I'm sure that you've maybe noticed this over time, unless it's about you, but I doubt that. Have you ever spent time with somebody and their words are so judgmental or critical or negative? They always got something bad or sad or woe is me or woe is somebody else's story to say. And by the end of an interaction with them, all your energy is gone. You feel completely drained and completely depleted. They have sucked away, they have stolen, taken away your energy that previous to that interaction was resonating at a higher frequency than what it became. This is called illusion. The person who is living in this way is living in illusion. They are not looking through truth, to divine truth. They're not looking at it through the proper perspective. Life, the situation, whatever it happens to be, they're not looking at it properly. Now, what happens when our consciousness is distorted? What does this even mean? What creates a distorted consciousness in the first place? So ego, the egoic thought system, can create this distorted consciousness. Let me explain this even deeper. What happens is you get this false sense of identity through believing thoughts through the ego that I'm separate, or I must defend or acquire or compete and survive. Beliefs like this fracture consciousness. So when ego is driven by fear or desire or attachment or the need to control or self-protection, look at this very deeply. What is happening here is the belief is saying that I'm not separate. And through that belief alone of just the separation, we suffer in all kinds of ways, and we're not looking at it truthfully. We're looking at it through the illusion, and the results in our life will produce like fruit of that. It will create the visible matter of these fears, of these desires to attach and to control, and this need for self-protection. Because what happens if I say, ooh, I'm not safe? I am believing, I have some belief system in me that says, first of all, I'm separate from the divine, meaning I'm not safe. Or I'm unworthy of that divine love, so I'm not safe. Or it's unreachable to me because probably I've done something and it's distorted my consciousness so much so that I can't attach to this divine love, and so I'm not safe. There will be all kinds of beliefs that will keep us separate. Because if I believe that I'm separate, then I am. My reality will reflect that. It doesn't mean that I actually am, because as soon as I shift my belief to the truth, then I will experience that. But up until that point, if I believe that I'm separate, then the outcomes in my life will prove this to me. It will show me what I believe. It's not going to show me the truth of existence. This is something that I have to discover for myself by getting rid of all the things that are a distortion of it. which is what we're talking about right now. So another way that we could be living in illusion is by living with the emotional conditioning that's stored in our energy field. So meaning things that happened to you in childhood that you maybe don't even think about. Don't even think about things that happened a million years ago that have just determined and dictated the way that your life is running right now. But you don't pay any mind to it because it's always been this way. And we might tell ourselves, things have always been this way. And so we just believe in them more and more and more. But this will be all from past conditioning. So if you have repeated emotions, that would be things like fear or anger or resentment or guilt or shame or rejection, things like this. And these things could be on thought loops. These could be things that pop up. But when they pop up, they are not good. When they pop up, they do not feel good. And the reason they're popping up is because these are stored in your energy field, because every thought that's infused with emotion becomes in energy form. So if you think something and it's very emotionally charged, like fear, anger, resentment, guilt, shame, all of these things have big emotional charges to them. And so when we have a thought around it and it's attached now to this strong emotion, it now becomes stored in the psyche. Now we might file it way back in our mind somewhere, so far at the back of the filing cabinet that we forget it's even there. Meanwhile, it will be determining and dictating certain outcomes in our life, reinforcing the illusion, and we won't even know that it's there because we will have forgotten that was ever even there, that it was filed away. Sometimes when I work with clients, and I got to say this is a really huge % of the time, the people don't know where their problems originated because, like I said, they're filed so far back in the filing cabinet, in the memories, in the consciousness, that they believe it's coming from a certain place, but it isn't. These things are stored so deep within us, they will rule our life until we become aware of them. But what happens when we have these thoughts that are infused with emotion, that become energy, that are now stored in our energy system, is that they will solidify into belief structures. That is then going to filter our perception and will attract matching experiences. This is why, when we have incidents that happened, we develop certain beliefs around them, and then all of a sudden we have these repeated patterns in our life, and we're in the third relationship that has the same characteristics of the person does this and they do this and they do that, but it is all because of the thought forms that are infused with emotion that are still contained within our energy system that we often are unaware that we have, because if we're aware of them, then we can actively go to change them. But sometimes that can take some work. Especially when we don't understand that it's us that's doing it and we think it's our circumstances. And we go, now I'm on the third, whatever type of relationship. They always end the same way. If we don't take responsibility for who it is that we are, and that we are in control of that, and that it is us, and that it is our beliefs, and that it is the things within us that have attracted this to ourselves, then we will place that outside of ourselves and continue along the illusion, because what will happen is that third incident will reinforce what you already believe, and then now we have a fourth, and then now we have a fifth, because what is happening is it is attracting matching experiences, reinforcing false reality loops. But they do become real, they become our reality, but we have created them. It is us. This is how trauma and childhood wounds perpetuate distorted perceptions. How they continue along, because often we're so young, right? We don't remember the specifics of it, and we just think, I've always felt this way, because we really have, because it happened when we were little. But that's not who we are, or that's not the truth. Now, distortion in our consciousness can happen when our thoughts are driven by fear instead of truth. Because think about Here's the perfect test. If you think fear-based thoughts, think about how that affects your nervous system, how that affects your consciousness. What happens? Oh, you get this heightened state, and it's draining. It's bleeding off your energy, right? Whereas when they're not driven by fear and they're in alignment with divine loving thoughts, it's uplifting. It gives you energy. You are creating. You become the creator of more wonderful energy, because what you think and feel it's literally forming your lived reality. But when these are unconscious, when we don't know that this is happening, then reality becomes distorted, because we have all these distortions within our energy system, within our belief system, within our mind and our consciousness, and we don't even know it. Sometimes other major distortions can come from believing that the physical world is the ultimate reality. Right? If Christ did this, though, he wouldn't have multiplied the fishes. He wouldn't have multiplied the loaves of bread, because he would have seen something in front of him and he would have thought, this is the way that it is. But he knew, he had such deep insight, because he no longer had delusion in his consciousness, which it's funny, because when people are in delusion, they will say that the other way is the thing that's delusional when it's not. So when somebody came to him and presented themselves to him and they had some illness or some sickness, everybody out there would have said, it's impossible. He's delusional to think that he could heal him. But no, because he showed them the actual truth, and they were all believing in the delusion, in the illusion of the sickness. But he knew better, because he knew that there was nothing that love could not do. And that he knew that the only reason that illness was present in the body was because that love was not present in that part, because the mind, because the consciousness had allowed distorted thinking, some type of thought loops, rumination that was negative, that was low vibrational, that was harmful, that distorted the pure consciousness, the loving consciousness that was meant to be there, and created a delusion, an illusion in its place. But because these things become our reality, because our thoughts become actual matter, visible reality, then it did not matter if you're believing in the good or the bad. It's going to create the outcome, the good or the bad, whatever it is that you're believing in, and you get to choose. This is your free will. Do you want to have a good life, or do you want to not? Do you want to keep believing that you're unfortunate and that things are never going to work, and keep that on a thought loop with emotions attached to it, which solidify it and make it solid? Or do you want to shift it up and believe that every good and wonderful thing is meant for me? I just completely forgot that I was loved so deeply by the divine that all my needs were already met. I forgot, but I'm remembering now. I'm remembering now. And when you live in this way, all of a sudden that energy that was being depleted off, that was being drained off through fear or through the resistance of what is, shifts up, and then all of a sudden you start to gain and get more energy. I got to say, when I was working at a retreat, and we were staying up so late, because every night I'm like, I just want to work, kind of one-on-one with these people. I just wanted to be able to give them time. And so I was staying up super, super late so that I could do this. And you would think, running off of the little bit of sleep, that I would have been exhausted, but I was not. I had more energy, and I thought, man, you know what? I don't even know that I ever need to sleep ever again. It was crazy, because I'm giving life-giving energy. I'm receiving it back. I'm only giving life-giving energy. I'm not giving any low vibrational energies, which would have fed the low vibrational, the drain within my body. So when we are only giving high, we are only going to get that back. But when we resist what is, it will distort our consciousness. And when we're resisting what is, I mean that we're judging, or that we're condemning, or we're blaming, or there is unforgiveness that is present, because these states, they block the divine flow, and they keep consciousness vibrating in separation, believing that we're separate. Because when we're judging something, we're saying it is separate from me. When we're condemning something, we're saying it's something separate from me. When we're blaming, we're saying that's something separate from me. And when we don't forgive, we're saying that is separate from me. And it's not, because everything is one. Let's imagine this. It's a light bulb. A light bulb is the very first creation that ever happens. And it gets so hot that it explodes into a billion pieces. And it begins to create things out of this explosion. Well, everything that was created from that thing contains that light bulb. It is the very base. It is the very substance of it. And this is what we are. We are not separate from that love, but through the illusion of earth, living on this earthly plane, we believe that we are, and this is what causes all suffering. When we are in alignment with divine love and truth and compassion, we are going to feel amazing. When we're living from what is loving, what is truthful, and what is life-giving, and we only allow ourselves to release those emotional charges through awareness of things that are loving, truthful, and life-giving, what kind of reality does this create for you? We are creating an era of peace and love, and it is our every loving thought that's a transforming influence on this earth. And so when we align our thoughts with our charged up emotions, and they're all in alignment with divine loving consciousness, we are going to experience heaven on earth, because this is where we are. But we have the choice of living in hell or of living in heaven while we're here. We get the choice because we are the creators, and it is through what we contain in our consciousness. That is what determines the outcome. That is what determines the experience that we have. Truth, it does not agitate the soul. It feels calm and grounded, expansive, and quietly certain. So if something needs you to panic, or to justify, or to prove, or attack, it's an illusion. Because illusion demands reactions, whereas truth invites awareness. It feels completely different. Illusion feels so urgent, right? It's reactive and defensive, and it's emotionally charged. Whereas truth doesn't need to defend itself. So we used to do this little experiment, and it was to see blind spots, that you have within yourself, within your own energy. But one of the little experiments that we did was talking about, let's say somebody called you a name. Well, maybe you'd get really upset, depending on what they called you. But let's say that they called you a taxi cab or something like this. You know that you're not a taxi cab. And so you're not going to get all worked up about it. You'll be like, okay, yeah, I'm a taxi cab. Like, okay, buddy. It's not going to bother you. Whereas if somebody calls you a different name, and let's say that this is affecting you in some way, it's going to cause some agitation. So when we know something for certain, when we certainly know, no, I'm not a taxi cab, we know that's the truth. And so we're going to have a calm reaction to it. Whereas if somebody calls us a name and we're not sure that we're not that, or maybe we got some trigger, we got something within us that needs to be healed, we might have some kind of reactive, defensive, emotionally charged reaction to it, thinking that we need to panic or justify or prove something, which is just showing us that it's an illusion. Because truth, it's always going to carry compassion and clarity and non-judgment. Illusion will disguise itself as rightness, but it will be lacking in love. An illusion is going to create superiority. It will justify cruelty. And it requires an enemy. It's not the truth, no matter how spiritual it sounds. Because truth always carries clarity. Have you ever been in a situation and you thought, it's just not adding up? That's because truth wasn't present. Something's not quite right, because truth carries with it clarity, the feeling, the emotion that you have, the feeling in your body will line up. There's not going to be, that feeling of feeling quite unsettled or split inside. because truth doesn't contradict itself. Your intuition, your body, and your lived experience all come into coherence when truth is present. But illusion will fracture these layers because you know that something feels off or unsettled, and you feel split inside, and you got this kind of feeling. Then you can know that it is illusion that is present and that you're not dealing with the truth. Illusion, it fears being questioned, hates it. It will also seek validation, or it needs an explanation. If you feel compelled to protect your belief, ask yourself why. Why do I need to protect this? If it's really the truth will speak for itself eventually. And truth is timeless, where illusion is circumstantial. So truth applies in peace and in conflict. It applies in gain and in loss, and in comfort and in discomfort, whereas illusion can change with your mood or your identity or fear. Whereas truth, it doesn't change, and it's experienced, it's lived, and it's felt. This is why when something actually comes out and is true, it's like, of course, everything feels right? When we hear something that's true and when we hear something that's not, we will be left feeling uneasy and distorted. Now it is truth that will lead you to complete spiritual fulfillment. Because when you're aligned and united with your source of being, you will have achieved your true purposes here on earth. And the way to get there is through relieving yourself of all the delusions and the distortions within your own consciousness. Because when you get that direct contact, you will have accomplished your true mission in eternity. And now let your real life begin, because you will have entered into the kingdom of heaven when all of the distortions and all of the illusions are gone. So trust and know that you are protected. You are divinely protected. You are not separate in any way, shape, or form, but it is our own consciousness and the delusions that we have within our consciousness that will tell us otherwise, and we will believe in them so much so that they will create the outcomes in the life that we're living. So this is what I have for you guys here today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to check out, I have that childhood wound quiz, and it also offers you the solutions. So what it's going to do is it is going to tell you, it's going to let you see if there's things that are still present in your life now that are affecting you, that have come and stem from childhood, and then it is going to offer you the solution on the inside. It's hypnosis. It's a guided hypnotherapy session. It's emotional freedom technique, and it's a channeled message specific to each of the outcomes. So this is very similar to the mental cleanse series, but more. You get more than what you do on there, and these are very specific outcomes. So if you've suffered through betrayal or humiliation, or rejection or abandonment, all these things, then you can check that out, and this can help you to heal those spiritual wounds so that you can truly, deeply, purely connect. I love you all so very much. Check me out on Auraverse, and you guys take care. Have the most wonderful day, and we'll talk to you soon.